I'm going to complain about the Skull Merchant changes. Now, I don't normally make these videos for Dead by Daylight, they're normally meme videos or whatever, but I have made 2 bitching videos about Call of Duty, so I thought I'd give Activision a break and move on to Behaviour. Now, there are numerous reasons I'm making this video. It's not because it's the straw that broke the camel's back for me, because I also hated the original Sadako PTB changes, and yet I didn't make a video on that. Thankfully they changed her, and I truly think she's in a healthier state for everyone, even though I lost one of my favourite playstyles with her and on the tip, and she's overall weaker. But the main reason that I'm making this video, on top of the fact that I hate what they've done, is that a lot of content creators are claiming that she's better on the PTB, which is just objectively false. Even more worrying are the number of them who are making this claim without having any prior knowledge on Skull Merchant as a chase killer before making the claim. I've seen a video where someone has literally said they haven't played Skull Merchant since she was on the PTB, originally, trying to claim how this killer is now better with the recent changes. Not only is this a truly ridiculous statement to make, since you've not actually played her in literally months at this point, and the killer's different playstyles emerged in that time, but she's also been reworked since the original PTB, so even if for whatever reason you know exactly how she played and all the playstyles, it doesn't even correlate to current Skull Merchant. In fact, the only content creators that I can think of that play her as a chase killer and have done videos on her as a chase killer would be True Talent, Grey Letters. If these out with an opinion on Scully changes, it would hold a lot more weight, since they actually do play her on live in a way that isn't just holding the game hostage. Now, everyone is free to have their own opinions, and I'm not going to call any content creator out directly for their opinions. This game has enough toxicity involved without adding fuel to the fire. But if you're going to give opinions on reworked killers or whatever, I find it extremely disingenuous to do it on pure feelings alone, without actually going to get a decent feel for how the change affects whatever it is that's being changed. Instead of advocating for healthy changes, making clickbait videos on how something's amazing when it objectively isn't just hurts the game overall. The same way I won't go give my opinion on an update in The Sims and how that affects the game when I don't play The Sims. I outlined this in particular because Behaviours' idea for this change was to remove her 3-genning and improve her chase potential, and I'm going to let you in on a little secret: her chase potential and what made her fun as a chase killer has been deleted, fundamentally failing at this premise. I want to make myself perfectly clear, as I can already see people reading in the comments below. I don't want her to be able to 3-gen effectively as she does. I don't want add-ons and a playstyle that allows you to hold people hostage for 50 minutes just to lose the game anyway. But we can remove this playstyle without deleting the thing that makes her fun as a chase killer, for the 5 of us who spent longer than 30 seconds looking at her kit to find a way to actually have fun with it outside of holding people hostage. Now, for a bit of background on me, as I'm a player nobody has ever heard of in this sphere, I'm a Sadako main. I've been playing DBD for about a year, and I joined with the Malevolent Tome. I started with it as a Ghosty main, with some Sadako sprinkled in there, but with the rise of Made for This and Gen regression being drop-kicked into uselessness, I found Ghosty a bit too frustrating to play. Since Scully's release, she's become one of my most played killers and filled a spot Ghosty used to play for me. I play her as a chase killer because I find her exceptionally fun to do as this. Now, pre-rework, the dissolution ability where someone with a claw trap vaulting a pallet would break the pallet was an add-on. It also had the effect of when the claw trap was active, it wouldn't break the trap. It would only break it if the battery was gone. So with this, you could have insane chase potential because you would have permanent dissolution on trap survivors the whole time, since you would keep refreshing the trap's battery by putting your drones down in loops. You could then use this to eventually get a hit. Now, people are going to say this wasn't good chase potential because it was reliant on a single add-on to do so. However, that's a ridiculous argument to make because the current reworked Scully, the one that's not on the PTB but the one that's on live, also relies entirely on add-ons to have a chase power. The difference is the add-ons that we had in the first rework, or the first iteration of her, were significantly stronger for chase potential. And no, a 2% haste on an M1 killer, contrary to what people who don't play Skull Merchant like to think, is not good anti-loop. Now, current Scully's chase potential works like this. This was also pre-rework, but you obviously didn't have it dissolution you could use all the time. You plop your drone down in a loop, and your add-ons either buff you in the drone or debuff the survivors when they're in the drone's range. Whether this be by revealing their aura, preventing mind games, essentially giving you the overclock ability from the singularity the entire time you're in the drone, alongside it lingering for 15 seconds, hindering the survivors and having it linger for 3 seconds, with you moving 2% faster from them being in the drone actually made it so you a decent anti-loop, or the creme de la creme, exhausting survivors in a zone. This add-on alone is what made me a Scully player, since I could shut down Dead hard for a chase, which was hard meta during her release if anyone can remember that, and I can shut down Made for This currently in actual power into the power roll as a Mouse 1 killer. Feels really good. Now, Herein lies the problem with the rework. All those add-ons I just mentioned, which you need to have chase power, had one thing in common. They require the active zone to work. With the rework, Behaviour in their infinite wisdom decided that the active zone was the problem with their 3gen. It wasn't, but we'll get onto that later. The result is every single chase add-on needed to be reworked, since the active zone range is now gone. And these reworks usually resulted to when a survivor has a claw trap. Now, one thing I failed to mention that was a big issue with the first rework is because the trap deleted itself compared to the prior one, where you had to take it off, all claw trap add-ons became useless overnight, since now you had a 45-second time window in which to get value from these add-ons. Now, this new rework is even worse, since the way to get a trap is the survivor must be scanned by your drone 3 separate times. There is no other way about it. Each time has a 3-second cooldown on when the survivor can be scanned again, and the speed of that scan is the same speed as an unactive drone is currently on live. On top of this, it doesn't scan through the walls, unlike it does on live. On top of this, when you place a drone down, it starts in a stealth state, where it scans really slowly. On top of this, recalling and placing a drone puts the ability on a 10-second cooldown. Now when a survivor just presses W to the next loop, which is the way that you counter a chase merchant, you don't have an ability for 10 seconds. Then if you've run out of drones, you need to recall one, resulting in your power being held hostage for 20 seconds. As you wait 10 seconds to put the drone up, to put another one down, and then you also have to wait 10 seconds to recall one. Now I know what you're thinking, but JC, surely Behaviour added something to her base kit to buff that chase potential, since they moved all the power away from the add-ons. Oh, you sweet summer child, I wish I held your innocence. What we get is the privilege to injure someone when you trap them with the drone. Wow, fantastic anti-loop there, Behaviour. We wait 45 minutes for someone to get a claw trap so we have the ability to injure them. Then if in that 45 seconds they have a trap on them and get scanned again, then you finally get some anti-loop in the form of a hinder. Fantastic work, Behaviour. Tell me, where is this newfangled chase potential coming from? You get to hinder someone as an M1 killer using a build-up ability that takes 25 minutes for it to fucking happen. Contrast this to my main Sadako, who has a build-up ability that literally lets you instantly kill a survivor. Oh, and by the way, I can fully condemn people and kill them before I've gotten a claw trap on someone as Skull Merchant. Now, back to the 3gen. What actually made Skull Merchant be so good at holding a 3gen were the add-ons combined with certain perks. These add-ons being the one to remove skill check notification sounds, and the skill check size being smaller. When combined with difficult skill check inducing perks like overcharge and oppression, it would make it obnoxiously difficult to hit the skill checks. If you put on the Oblivious add-on too, it would make it so you needed to keep looking for Scully, which resulted in you missing a skill check since you didn't have the audio for one popped up. This is what makes her a brutal 3gen killer, not the active zones themselves, since you would constantly be regressing the generator by 10% every time you inevitably missed one of the skill checks. If you delete these add-ons, particularly the one that removes the skill check, she would instantly be a worse 3gen killer. Not only this, but they did actually implement a decent change where when you're stood still, the drone doesn't scan you. Why didn't you just implement that behaviour? That's all you had to do. Instead, you've butchered the entire chase potential of this killer in your typical swinging dick approach of you drop kicking whatever you perceive to be the problem without any foresight as to the repercussions of that change. Then we have further nerfs due to the fact it doesn't scan through walls anymore, meaning if a loop has any walls on it whatsoever, it's now completely useless for anti-loop, because it's not going to scan the survivors because it needs direct line of sight on them. Unlike Live Scully, where her drone works as anti-loop in any loop because it does scan through the walls. Also, you get wonderful changes like how walking by your own drone turns it off and prevents it from scanning for a period, meaning if you put it on a loop, you can literally delete your own power as you walk by it. Behaviour also haven't fixed the issue, where it will just fly off to wherever the fuck it wants when you try to place it, meaning that combined with the 10-second cooldown of deploying and retracting your drone, when the game fucks you and places your drone nowhere where you want it to be, you are now at your power for 20. But don't worry, she's a better chase killer. What they've actually done is shift the playstyle to one where you sneak around with the new effect of initiating Insidious when you deploy a drone. For those unaware, you get 8 seconds of Insidious when you deploy a drone. Comboing it with an add-on will also get you 10 seconds of Insidious. Use this to sneak up on generators and you get 3 hits. This could have been a fun playstyle if it wasn't for the 25,000 cooldowns on her abilities. Now, some people are claiming she's a zoning killer now, but she isn't. A zoning killer has something that actively discourages you from looping there. The drones are not a discouragement. Running into a trapper's trap and being instantly knocked is a discouragement. Having a hag teleport on top of you and blocking you is a discouragement. A drone may be scanning you if you're in direct line of sight of that, and having it happen 3 times so that you can get an injury on you does nothing. What she's turned into now is a shit version of Hag and Trapper. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the way that they buff the Trapper is by making a killer somehow worse than the Trapper. Oh, and one last thing. Your ability, Behaviour, to act dumb in a way to gaslight the community is truly magnificent. You did it with the insanely dumb change of looking down when you got a hit as killer, claiming it was always meant to do this despite it not doing this for 7 goddamn years, and you've done it with Scully, as you try to play dumb thinking people wouldn't use her drones on generators. Motherfuckers, if you didn't think that the drones would be used on generators, why the fuck do you have add-ons that only affect generators, like skill check ones? What other possible way would an add-on like that be useful, other than putting them on generators? Not only this, but you made the effect linger for 15 seconds when you leave the radius. So you also intended for it to stay once you grabbed the drone. Stop this bullshit narrative that you weren't expecting people to put the goddamn drones on generators when you actively have add-ons that promote you doing this. Well, that rant's over, and yes, I know, it's the PTB, and I'm gonna have people saying, oh, it's the PTB, dude, so you can't complain, not like this is the fucking entire reason the PTB exists. But let's not sit here and pretend like reworks that were complete dog shit haven't been pushed through in the past, as Behaviour continue to prove their game design and balance team having a Scooby what they're doing half the time, and are seemingly just winging it. Which is particularly frustrating on a killer that you've already released, which means people have already paid for this killer, which means that when you push something through that's complete dog shit, you're essentially wasting people's money.
Not my problem.
No, fuck that shit! Now you give us our 80 grand back and take him with you!
Oh, yeah, okay. Oh, I take him back, right after you suck on these little nuts! How'd that sound? So long!
Wait a second.